Welcome to the Ham Shack. I'm Peter. So I want to give you a quick little tour here of what I have for amateur radio gear in this part of the house and kind of stationary things I do. This is my main computer setup. It is a Panasonic tablet called the FZM1. It is an 8-inch Windows tablet. Runs Windows. I mean, fine, whatever. And 8 gigs of RAM. It's a dual-core quad-thread i5 7th gen ultra low volt processor. It works. It's fine. I wouldn't call it a speed demon, but it'll run Discord. It works. Besides games and error high and stuff. And that goes to a vehicle dock mounted on a VESA little plate. This way I can mount my tablet from here and screen mirror to the external monitor. The option I have too is this. If I want to go and use a radio for POTA or SOTA or for field day or EmComm applications, I can take it out of the dock, right? And I can plug it into this. A small keyboard made by iKey. These are hard to find, and so is the dock, actually. I got lucky on this one on eBay. So this little toaster lets me have a little tiny mouse, a keyboard, thumbprint reader, and an extra USB port. And it's absolute crap to type on, but typing in a call sign, it's good enough. And this for field day use is a great little radio. I mean, English reader, little computer. What else we got here? Oh, for the radio gear, we got ourselves an IC7000. That is my primary shack radio, shack in a box, literally. It covers 160 through 6 meters on one side of the radio, and it also carries 2 meters and 440 on the other side of the radio. So it's actually, basically again a shack in a box. 100 watts until you hit 2 meters, then it's 50. I believe 440 is around 35 watts or so. That's fine. The usual, you're going to find a $1,000 Windows New radio is kind of the norm. Color screen no less too, which also can screen mirror from here to the external monitor. This has got composite input. It's a pretty rare monitor to have that. So if I want to mirror this screen, I can. It's not even a TV, it's actually a Dell monitor from like the 2010 era. It's kind of neat. To the right of that is a Pro 510XL, pardon me, Harper, 510XL from Uniden. Your standard CV radio, just to have it on tap. I don't believe in free banding, that kind of stuff. That's not how I roll. So I got a crappy little CB to do 11 meters. And it works out quite well. It actually works pretty well for what it is. That goes out these coax lines to some surge arresters. I've got double these, this here, and also at the antenna on a grounding strip. One of them, of course, goes up to the top of the roof, and that goes to the 2-meter 440 antenna, a collinear. This guy just my gain is about 8 feet tall. It's a nice antenna. And then the HF antenna is an off-center fed dipole, and it's about 135, 140 feet long or so. I forget the exact model name, but I got an HRO guard all tuned up, and it'll cover 160 through 6 meters, which matches the radio's ATU perfectly, and that works wonderfully. The whole thing just works, TM. The antenna is about 35, 40 feet off the ground at that range, which is plenty for a 100-watt RF exposure limit for the FCC. Makes them all happy. And I'm not really in the NVIS category, which is kind of nice too. I can kind of do some decent Skywave work. It works wonderfully. Everything here works as intentional. The only thing that kind of sucks is, honestly, I wish that I love parts of the IC7000 from ICOM, but I will say, my first HF radio was the Xiegu G90, the Baofeng of HF radios, and I love that system. And it's really a shame that that UI isn't on this. I can probably operate the Xiegu blindfolded. I really like it, just the way it works mentally for me for a menu system is just intuitive. Whereas this, I'm like, where's the manual at? Sometimes. Normal operation is fine, but trying to get it into like VHF, UHF mode, do channelized work, this is really a VFO radio. Trying to use it as a mobile VHF stuck to your shack is just fighting. I'm tempted to buy just another VHF radio to put just a standard dual bander to put in line, not even use this at all for upper bands because it just works so horribly like that. It's inconvenient, to put it simply. Yeah, and that's my ham shack, and I like it. It works out quite well. Power is important too. It's supplied by a U1 size, about this big, lawnmower battery size iron phosphate battery from Valence Systems. Those are super high quality cells. This one's actually already an 8-year-old battery. It has 90% of its capacity left, or its lifecycle left, and about 95% of its capacity in the process amp hour wise, which is great. So these things are great for very long term, medium to high depth of discharge applications. The BMS on these batteries can handle 40 amps easily, 80 amps pulsed. So my 25, 30 amp max transmit radio isn't going to piss off the batteries, BMS, and freak it out. Things is a dead short, which is really handy. The other thing too about it that is nice is that it has an onboard little blinking light to show you its charge status within reason. And I don't charge it all the way. I do once every few months, but I charge it using a modified Xbox One power supply. I've tweaked it so it actually will charge batteries in a constant voltage mode. And since it never actually gets fully discharged, the higher current capacity the power supply cannot put enough current out to actually fry the battery. It fails to not working properly instead of failing to fry, right? So it's actually a good failure mode in this case, and it's cheap and it works. I modified the voltage divider on the output of the Xbox One power supply to put out 13.8 volts, not 12.0000000. That way it'll basically float charge. It'll just charge up to that point. You can run more than 13.8 volts on an iron phosphate battery pack. I think it's around 14.2 is the recommended charge voltage, but this gives me some headroom. So the whole 80% to 20% kind of window to have maximum lifespan, I'm doing it inherently in hardware. That way I don't really ever overcharge the battery and try to sit out, and I don't ever use the system enough in a day to ever get anywhere near to half discharge. So I'm using a very small window of the battery's capacity. This should last for thousands and thousands and thousands of cycles. And that's pretty cool. I have considered tossing some solar panels on top of the roof. I have plenty of space for it, except for that is south, or that is north, that is south, and the windows, the roof's like this above me right now, above this walkway, and unfortunately, I can't get a good angle, and so there's no point. Plus, also, there's a lot of trees here. I would get pretty bad lighting, so,